Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In previous video, I have shown you a quick overview of Cafe management system, which is developed using Spring Boot as a backend and Angular as a front end. And for the database, we are going to use the MySQL. So if you haven't watched that video, just go to description and check out that link. From this video onwards, we are going to start development of the backend APIs for the complete that Cafe management project. So first thing, to start the development, first we have to download a project structure. So Spring actually provide a website from where we can download that template. So project structure or template, whatever you can say. So for that, we have to just open up the browser and make sure your system is connected with the internet. And after that, you have to search for Spring Initializer. When you hit enter, it will open up like this, and here the first site you have to go. So just click on this Spring Initializer and this will open a pop-up like this. You can change the color over here, and here you can see this by default this Maven project is selected, so we don't need to make any changes over here. The Spring Boot version is selected, that's totally fine. After that, we have to make few changes over here, and by default the packaging is jar and the Java version 11 is selected. So make sure Java version 11 is installed on your system too. And first thing, before we make changes this side, I'm going to add few dependencies. So first thing we need is a Spring Web, because we are going to develop a web application that has full APIs following the MVC architecture. Second thing we need is JPA. After that, we need MySQL connector, JDBC, API, and I also need Lombok. This much I need for now. Okay, after this, if you want to read more and understand more about these and what this group artifact ID and name and whatever these are, I've already developed a separate video for that, is CRUD operation in the Spring Boot. I'm going to put the link of that video also in the description. I've explained everything in the detail and I've shown how to make the CRUD operation, so make sure to check that out also. Okay, so next thing what we have to do is we have to change this group ID. So I'm going to name this one com.in.cafe, and I'm going to just copy it and just paste it in the artifact. Okay, so I'm not just repeating all of these stuff. You just need to check out that video, that is the CRUD operation that I have explained what these are. Okay, so this one is, I'm going to name this one cafe management, and this is system, and this is a cafe management system project. Project video, and the packaging name will be, just remove this much part, com in cafe. And this is Spring Web is for actually the web RESTful APIs. JPA, we are going to use this. JPA provides a number of facilities like the save, and we can search, find by ID. Most of the stuff will be provided by the JPA. MySQL driver to connect to the database, and JDBC driver and Lombok. I'm going to explain this throughout the project why we need this. So after that, you have to just make these changes, whatever I did, and just click on generate. When we click on this, it will download one zip over here. So show to folder. Show in folder, and here we have it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract it over here. So just extract to common cafe, and it will take some time. Just cut this one and paste it wherever you want. So I'm going to paste it to another folder over here. After this, inside this one, we can check we already have one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut this all and paste it over here, and just going to remove this cafe. Okay, so now we have this properly like this. Here you can see this. Next thing what we have to do is I'm going to use the IntelliJ as my IDE. You can use any of the stuff like Eclipse, STS, you can use any. So here what I'm going to do is just I'm going to open a project. So click on this, and I'm going to just open the project like this. Let me just open it, video project, and this is my project, that is common cafe. Just click on this and click on OK. Trust this project, trust project. It will open a my project, and it will start resolving all the dependencies by following in the POM. So if you are not clear about what is POM and how exactly is resolve the dependencies and how this one works, make sure to check that video out, which I have already mentioned the CRUD operation video in the description of this video. Okay, so now our project is completely loaded. Here you can see this. Now the load is finished. Just click on this, and here you can see this. We have the pom.xml, and here you can observe that we have added the JPA. So we have the JPA dependency added, JDBC dependencies added, web, MySQL connector, Lombok. These dependencies are added now, and whenever we add any dependency, and here we will have one small m symbol, like suppose I make these changes, or whenever we add a dependency, we will see one event pop up over here. We have to click on that. It will start resolving all the dependencies, so we don't need to worry about this. First thing what we have to do is we have to see the project structure. So here we have this src. If I click on this and main, and we are mostly going to work inside this one, that is the common cafe. This is the group id which we have provided. Okay, inside this one we have one main class, that is cafe management system application. Just double click on this, and we have this much of code by default. This class is to start our Spring application, so we are not going to make any modification in this. Just close it. After this, we have one application.properties. Whatever properties we need to actually connect to the database and other properties also, we are going to write it over here. So first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to add few properties over here to connect to the MySQL database. So the first property is spring.dataSource.driver hyphen class hyphen name. So I'm going to mention the driver name. So let me just minimize it so that you can see clearly. And my driver name is com.mysql.cj.jdbc.driver. So make sure you use this one. In the online resources, you will find something like this, com.mysql.jdbc.driver. Whenever you use this, whenever you start the application, it will show some error, some warnings that this com.mysql.jdbc.driver is deprecated. You need to use a new one, that is mysql.cj.jdbc.driver. So why we wait for this warning to be thrown? Initially we are going to use this. Okay, second property which we are going to use is spring.dataSource.url, and that will be jdbc : I'm going to use this MySQL database as I have already told you, and after that I have to pass the path, that is localhost : and MySQL always up on 3306, that is the port number, and I'm going to pass the database name. So I'm going to open the MySQL, and here I'm going to enter the password, that is 123456, and I'm going to create one database. So what happened is, when we are going to use the JPA to actually create the automatically database, the tables in our database. So if I'm going to use it, then initially we have to provide the database name. Minimum, we have to create a database. So I'm going to create a database with name. Let me zoom it a little bit, and we have to provide a name. So I'm going to name it cafe video and hit enter. So the same name we have to paste it over here. So I'm going to copy it and minimize it, and we have to paste it over here. For now, if you check it out, I'm going to use cafe video and show tables, and we don't have any tables right now. We don't have any tables, but once we're done with these properties and we make the Pojo and we will start the application, we will see automatically whatever we define in the Pojo, that with that description the table will be created. I will show you those stuff, don't worry. So we have added the database name. After that, we have to mention the URL. We have already mentioned the URL. We have to mention the username and password to connect to the database. So I'm going to mention it, spring.dataSource.username, that is root. In my case, if you have set anything else while installing the MySQL, you have to use that name over here. And after that, I have to mention spring.dataSource data source dot password. My password is 123456 as I've shown you. After this, we want to actually see the query in the terminal whenever our application is run. So spring dot jpa dot show hyphen sql. I'm going to turn this property true. After that, what we want is whenever we create a model and we start our application, we want to create the table according to that model. For that, we have to also mention one property, that is the spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl, that is data definition language slash auto is equal to update. We have to set it. Okay, and we need one more properties, that is spring.jpa.properties.dilect actually, and here we have to mention org.hibernate.dialect.mysql 8 direct. We have to use this, and after that we have to mention one more property. This is not mandatory, but we are going to use this so that we can see the formatted SQL query in our logs. So I will show you how to use this. spring.jpa.properties.hibernate.format, and this is SQL is equal to true. Actually, we missed one small stuff. It's hibernate, and we have to copy this much part and we have to paste over here, hibernate.dialect. It's like this. Okay, now the property part is done. If you want to start your application on the different port, so you can mention it over here, like server.port is equal to 8081. I'm going to start my application always on 8081. If you want to use any another port, you can use that. Okay, so now the task for this application or properties is done for now. Further, we are going to add more properties. I'm going to explain each of this stuff. So let me close this, and after that we move over here, that is common cafe. Here what we have to do is we have to actually make few packages. So first I'm going to create packages. So right click on this and create the package with the name constants. Right click on this, I'm going to create another package that is for DAO, another package for JWT, because in the quick overview video I've already told you that almost all the application, all the endpoints is going to bypass through the actually all the endpoints is going to be rectified that if this is a valid request or not. Okay, except the login and sign up API. So that's why we need a JWT implementation for that. So next package will be Pojo. That will be the model. You can call it model or Pojo. So next thing is REST, and another package will be RESTimple. Another package will be service and ServiceSimple. After that we need few more packages, that is utils, utility class, and another will be wrapper. Okay, finally we are done with the packages. So before we do anything, let's move over here, just double click on this and just try to start our application. Run cafe management system main. Okay, so it's building. So first time we have to move over here and then click on this plus sign. After that we have to just click over here. So here you can see this. Now our application is up and running on port 8081. Okay, and the context path is nothing. We haven't set any context path, so don't need to worry about that. Just whatever the path we will set, we have to just type localhost 8081 / and whatever path we set in for the particular API. So without setting the properties, if you try to start the application, it will throw an exception because you have added the dependency for the MySQL and it's not being connected to the database. So make sure you add the properties first. Let me just stop it and just minimize it for now. Once we started it from here, now we have the start application button over here enabled. Okay, so first thing what we are going to do is we are going to add the Pojo, that is the repository. Not the repository, actually that is the model. First we are going to add the model. Okay, so in the Pojo, right click on this and click on this, and this is a Java class, and here we have to create the Pojo. So I'm going to name this one user and just click on enter, and here we go. This is the user. So first thing what we have to mention is entity. After this I'm going to add few more addition, that is dynamic insert and dynamic update. So in the CRUD operation video I've also explained what is this dynamic update, dynamic insert and everything. So just you must watch that video once. Okay, so after this we have one table annotation, and said this one we have to name the table whatever we want. So I'm going to name this one user for now, and that's it. We need only this much of annotations. And after this we have to implement it with serialization, serializable actually. Okay, we need one more annotation, that is data. So what this data does is this data will provide the default 0R constructor for our class, the getter and setters for all of the variables which we are going to declare over here. So if you can double click on this, and okay, so if I click on this one, this is the Lambok dependency, you can read about it. Okay, so after this implementing serializable, first thing what we have to do is we have to actually create one variable, that is private static final, and it's long and serial version ID is equal to 1L. It's long, that's why I have pressed the serial alt and L key to format the stuff. Here you can see this. Initially there is no space between these, so press serial alt and L. In the IntelliJ ID, in the Eclipse, you have to press Ctrl Shift and F to format it. Okay, so what are these? I'm not explaining these much for now, because if I keep explaining all of the small stuff, then it's going to be a very lengthy video. Okay, so first thing what we have is over here is we have to create the variables. So first variable is the primary key, that is the pk for our project, that for this class actually. So I'm going to create one variable that is private, and it is of type integer, and it is id, and this is the @id, and this we need to actually automatically generate id one by one whenever it value is added. Okay, so for that generate it value, and the strategy will be generate type identity. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to name this column. So this is a column, and I'm going to name this one is equal to name. Now after that we need another column, that is private of type private, and it's of type string, and this is name. Okay, this is not name, this is the id actually. Okay, this is name, and this is @column, and it will be a name is equal to name, like this. Next thing we have another column, that is contact number. So it's also of a string type for now, and @column. I'm going to name this one name is equal to number. Another value which we have is private string email @column, and the name will be email column, and name will be password, private string, and its password. Okay, so you must revert that where is the username. So email ID is itself the username. Okay, so next thing we have is the status, private string status, and we have role, private string role. And you can see this. Now our model is ready. In this table, we need only ID, name, contact number, email ID, password, and status and role. So, as I've told you that I have added a one annotation that is at the rate data. This is going to take care of for all of the getter and setters for these variables which we have declared over here, and also the default argument, default constructor. So if you want to generate your default constructor and your getter and setter by your own, then you can just remove this annotation like this one. Let me just remove it, and you can also work like this. Let me just move over here and just alt and insert, and you have to create this constructor. So either you can select one, like here you can see this. Now the one constructor for one is created, or you can just work like this. You can just alt and insert and click on constructor. You have to select all of these like this. You may need the constructor for all of these. So here the constructor is ready, and alt and insert, and you can also generate the get and status for all, not the serial version UID. I'm going to generate a constructor for all of these and click on OK, and here you can see this. Now the getter set is ready. So this is a boilerplate code. We don't need this much of code. That's why we have use the data annotation, and if you use like this, then you must need this public user and the 0R constructor like this one. Okay, so make sure if you don't use that data, then you have to do something like this in order to work with this Pojo. So I'm not going to use this, so I'm going to just revert my code a little bit, and here we move over here. Now we have the data. Okay, so now this is good. So if I move back over here and if I run it once again, that is show tables. Again, you can see there is no table in my database. But once I start this application, and let me just show you this run. You just have a look at over here. And here you can see this. Now one query is printed over here, and this is in a very readable format. So we have added one application.properties to actually format our SQL query. One to show the query and another to format the query. So the query is visible in the formatted way. So both properties working fine. So you can see this create table user ID integer not null auto increment, and this is contact number of varchar type, and here you can see this. You can also set another properties like nullable is not nullable and something like these. All properties are constraints you can set over here. Okay, so if I stop this application and restart it, this is for the only first time when we don't have the table actually. But now if I move back over here, show tables, here you can see this. Now we have one user. So if I describe this user, here you can see this. Now we have all the columns over here. So if I move back over here and if I restart the application, we will see that this time no create query will be fired. Here you can see this. We can't see any query over here, and our application is up and running on the port 8081. So this is good. If I delete this table, so like drop table user and hit enter, and now show table, we don't have any table. And if I restart the application, now we will see that query again because we don't have that table. And here you can see this. So now this one is working fine. Now let's start and develop the API. So let me just close this, and first thing what we need is we need one interface, that will be the REST interface. There we will define the path, the endpoint for our API. So first thing what I'm going to do is in the REST package, right click on this and click on this and create a new Java class and select this interface. And here I'm going to name this one user rest. So first we will create all the packages, all the classes we need, and after that we'll start developing. So this one, the second one with the rest impl. So user rest impl, and this will implement user rest. Okay, next thing we need another interface, that will be the service. So user service, and another we need is user service impl. So user service impl, and this will implement user service like this. Next thing, we have to put some annotation on these. So first thing, if we move over here, we have to put one annotation, that is a REST controller. So we will tell the Spring Boot that this class is our REST controller. So we need, this is compulsory, you need to put this annotation over here. And second thing, we have to tell Spring that for this REST we have one user service impl, and this is our service actually. Okay, so here we are going to write the actual business logic. One more class we need, that is in the DAO. So right click on this and click on this and generate an interface over here, and this will be the user DAO. Hit enter, and this will it will extend JPA repository. And here we go. Inside this bracket we have to pass the POJO or model, whatever you say. So user comma, and here we have to pass the type of PK we have. So our PK type is integer, so we have to pass integer over here and press Ctrl Alt L to format it, and here we go. So now every classes interfaces we need is ready. Next thing, we need one more constant if you want constant class, or you can directly write all the constant variable, but this is a good way. So I'm going to generate one cafe constant where we are going to put all the constant which we require. Okay, so this is cafe constant. Like this. And we need one more utility class. So right click on this and click on Java class, and here we are going to create one class with the Java utility. Sorry, not the Java, it's cafe utility. Or this is a utils, actually cafe utils, and hit enter. And here we will have the utility methods. Utility method means which is going to be a generic method which can be used in any service impl classes or in any classes. Okay, that may be used, like suppose we need a unique ID, so we write a method which is going to return a unique ID. So in that case we are going to use that type of code we need to write in the utility classes. So this is a cafe utils class. Okay, so I'm going to show how we are going to use this. So first we are going to start with the user rest. So we have added the two annotation, that is rest controller, and one other annotation over here, that is service. So if I move back over here to the rest, we have to start from working from here. So first thing what we need is we need one endpoint. So for that, over here we have to pass a rest request mapping, and the request mapping will pass the path. So path is /user. So what is this path? Whenever we user want to hit our API, so we will hit this user, then whatever the API we are going to define over here. So why we need this at the class level? Because in a one class we can have multiple APIs. So this will bifurcate that from here we want to move to these classes. Okay, these path actually. So next thing, we need to declare one interface method. So public, and this will be response entity of type string, and my method name will be signup, like this, and it's going to accept one request body. and I'm going to make this one required is equal to true. It's by default true, but still I'm going to mention it. Map of a string comma string, I'm going to accept string comma string, and I'm going to name this one request map like this. Now we have declared one method over here in the interface, but still it's showing one problem. I will explain why this one is showing. So again, as I've told you that from here we have to, let me just minimize this. From here we have to move to this one. For that again we have to actually declare one mapping over here. So this is a post mapping. Why? Because we are accepting one value in the body, that is the key value pairs. So I'm going to just mention the post mapping over here, and for that I'm going to pass the path. So this is slash sign up, and if I save it, now this is, we are good with the rest. So now the task over here is done. Next thing, why this one is showing an issue, because this is an interface and this is being implemented by the user REST impl. But in the user REST impl, we don't have implementation for this sign up. So if I move back over here, and here you can see this is the error what it's throwing. Okay. So here we have to just click on this one and implement methods, and click on OK, and it will override method, and now the issue is resolved. Over you can see this, now the one problem is gone. If I move back over, let me just make some space over here, and here we can see this. Okay, after this what we are going to do is we are going to just remove this return null part, and I'm going to put everything inside this try and catch block, and this is the exception and ex. Okay, and inside this one I'm going to print ex.print start trace, and whenever the exception is thrown, I don't want to send that exception to the end user. In that case, I'm going to return a customized message. Okay, before we return any customized message, what we want to do is we want to call one method from the service, and as I have told you that our actual implementation will be on the service impl. So here we have to actually go through this REST impl and service impl to implement the abstraction. Okay, so first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to auto wire this user service so that we can actually access all the methods available in the user service. So from here I'm going to return user service dot sign up, and this is going to show an error because there is no sign up in the user service. So let me just copy and paste it over here and pass this request map to this sign up. Okay, so don't worry about this, I'm going to fix it in a while. So before that, whenever this exception is shown, here you can see this is showing an error because it's returning a statement. Why this one is throwing an error, showing this missing return statement as we have already added it? Because in the case of the successfully calling this will work fine, but suppose if I call this and exception is thrown, then we will move back over here, and here we don't have any such type of code which is going to return anything. So in that case our application will get crashed. So now I'm going to develop one utility method, but before that I'm going to show you how we are going to work with that. Okay, so here what we have is response entity of type string it's expecting. So for that we have to return a new response entity of type string. Inside this one we have to pass it like this, so it will be something like this one, message slash colon double quotes colon, and then again slash, and it will be some message like this. And it will return a HTTP something like this. Okay, after this it will return HTTP status, and it will be internal server error, that is 500. It will work like this. So in this case what will happen is we have to, it's MESSAGE message. So in this case what will happen is we have to write and again this much of stuff. So what we can do is I'm going to just cut this part and move to the utility part class, that is cafe utility. And here first we have to develop one private constructor over here, so that we cannot create object of this one, and we are going to define every method inside this one will be static, so that we can directly access it with the class name dot the method name you want to access. So here I'm going to create one class that is public static, and it will return a response entity of type string, and this will, I'm going to name this one get response entity, and this will accept two stuff, that is string, and it will be response message, and second is HTTP status, that will be code whatever you want to return, so HTTP status like this. Okay, so I'm going to paste it over here. Let me just collapse this, and here we go. So here I'm not going to use this. Okay, so here we have to just remove this much of code, this much of line, and I'm going to use this plus sign and double quotes on the start and double quote on the end, and here will be the response message like this one. And we have to put this HTTP status code over here, so I'm going to just remove it, HTTP status over here, and here we go. It's a new response entity of type this one, and message whatever we are going to return, or we will fix it over here, and this HTTP status is over here. So I'm going to use this response entity. So if I move back over here in the user rest temple, and here as I have told you that we have made that class private, the constructor is private, so we cannot create the object of that, but we have created the new method that is of static type. So cafe utils, okay, so it's going to return a response entity of string type, so return cafe utils dot get response message. In here we have to pass two stuff, that is the message, and another is HTTP status, and we have to pass something, not something, we are going to pass 500, that is internal server error. So if I hit enter, and now here you can see this, now the issue is fixed. This one is still remaining, so that's why it's showing an error, so I'm going to fix it. And here we have to pass one message. So this message is a generic message, it means that something went wrong, so this is going to be used in so many places. So what we are going to do is we are going to define one constant for the same. So I'm going to move over here, that is cafe constants which we have created. So just move back over here and make some space over here, and this is the public static final and of type string. I'm going to name this one something underscore went underscore wrong is equal to something went wrong like this, and press Alt L to format it. And next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it over here. So we have declared this constant as a static, so we can access with the class name. So cafe constant dot something went wrong. So just remove it, cafe constants dot something went wrong, and here you can see this. Next thing what we have to do is we have to move to the user service. So if I move back over here, and it's expecting of sign up, so over here what we have to do is we have to just write response entity of type string. Inside this one we have to just declare it as sign up, and it's of map of string, it's expecting string comma string. like this, and it is a request map like this. And if I format it, now it's throwing an error and showing an error over here because we haven't implemented it. And if I move back over here, you can see this, now the issue is resolved. And if I move back to the user service sample, just click on this and implement method and click on OK. Now the method is implemented. Here, first thing what we have to do is just make some space, and I'm going to put one more annotation, that is SLF4J, to actually for the logging purpose. Okay, so let me just remove this. Next thing what we have to do is, first I want to validate this request map. So in the request map we need some values like the contact number, email ID. We need this much of record, this much of data needs to be present in this, otherwise the request is invalid. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to create one more method, that is validate signup map. So this will be the private, and it is validate signup and map like this, and it's going to accept this string comma string type, and this is of request map, and this is going to return boolean type value, so boolean. Okay, so what we are going to validate, so request map dot contains key. We are going to expect some of the keys like name is compulsory, and we need request map dot contains key. We are not focusing on the value, we are going to check that if these keys are present or not. Contact number, third is what we are going to validate is request map dot contains key, and here we are going to check for the email, and request map dot contains key, and here we are going to check for password. Okay, these much of stuff is going to provide from the UI. So if I move back over here in the Pojo, and here you can see this, the name, contact number, email, password, and we have status. By default this will be false, and the role will be user at the user end. Okay, so these two stuff we need to assign while we are signing up. So we need only these 4 records from the user. So if I move back over here, and here you can see this, we have checked it, but how to check it properly? So here we have to put inside the if block, so if, and just put it inside this one. If this is true, then return true, else return false, like this one. So now the validator method is ready. Next thing what we have to do is, first I'm going to print the log. So log.info, and here I'm going to print inside signup, and here I'm going to print the log, that is request map, like this one. So whenever we hit the API, first it will log all the data which is available in the request map, and after that it will check for another stuff, so that we can easily rectify what is the issue with this request map data if you want to keep track or if you want to debug the code. Okay, so next thing we have to use this validate signup map and pass a request map. So if this is true, then we are going to validate it, we are going to proceed with the other stuff, else we are going to throw the exception, whatever you want. So in the else condition, I want to return, cafe utils, and set this one dot get response entity and cafe constants, not this one. Okay, so I'm going to create one more constant, that is for invalid data. So public static final string invalid underscore data is equal to invalid data like this. So if I move back over here and I'm going to use this cafe constant dot invalid data and I'm going to pass 400, that is a bad request. HTTP status dot bad request. If I click on this, if you want to see the status code, so just press the Ctrl key and move back over here and you can see this status bad request is the value is 400, that is bad request. So let me just close this. In the same way you can see for the others. So we have to put the semicolon over here. So now we are good over here. After this, inside this one, first thing what we have to do is we have to check that if that user name, that is the email ID, exists in our database or not. For that, we have to actually create one query over here. So user DAO, and here we have to create one named query. So what we have to do is we have to just declare one query over here. So this is the interface. So user, and this is going to return a user type object, this one. And inside this user DAO, we are going to name this one find by email ID. And inside this one, we have to write this param. Inside this one, we have to pass this email, and this is string email like this. Okay, so this is the interface. In the earlier classes, wherever we declare the interface, we need an implementation. So here, where we will find the implementation for this one. Okay, so we will find the implementation for this one in this one, that is a Pojo. So how to write the implementation for the same over here? So for that, what we have to do is we have to make some space over here, and we are going to write the named query. So @named query, and here we have to mention the name is equal to, and inside this one we will write the class name, that is user. Make sure U is capital, this one, user dot whatever the name we have given over here to this interface. So move back over here, just click on this one and just make some space and put the comma and write query, and whatever query you want to write, just write it over here. So I want to select U from table name, that is user. This is the user. Don't focus on this one. This user is mapped with this user. So if you write this small u and ser, then it will throw an exception. We can't able to find that user table. So select u from user, and u is the alias for this one, where u dot email is equal to colon and the variable name which you have written it over here, that is the email. Make sure this one and this one is same. So if I move back over here, just paste it and press the Ctrl Alt L. Now let me just here we are going to return null for now. Okay, so if I run it, and if there is any error in our query, then it will throw it over here. So if my application is started, here you can see this, my application is started at 81. So it means that my query is correct and it's working fine. So if I move back over here, and if I move back over here, as I have told you that if I change this one to small u, then it will not work. So if I click on this one, and here you can see this, it can't able to find. Here you can see this, now the exception is thrown that it can't able to, user is not mapped. Here you can see this user is not mapped. Okay, so make sure you write whatever I'm writing over here. And next thing, if we use this email, so if this email isn't like this email, then you have to write capital E over here, like this one. Okay, so be careful with what you write over here. So now our query is ready. Whenever we pass one email ID, that email ID will be checked in our database and it will return this user object. Okay, so now move back to the server sample and just move back inside this one. And first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a user object, that is user. So press Alt and Enter. So I'm going to use this user common cafe Pojo. By default, this user class is already available in other security classes that is default Spring. So I'm going to use this one which we have created. So just double click on this and user, and here first thing what we have to do is we have to create the object of the DAO class. So AutoWire and user DAO over here. So is equal to user DAO dot find by email ID, and here we're going to extract the email ID from the request map. So request map dot get email. Okay, so request map dot get, and here we have to pass the email if object dot is null. It means that if we can't able to find anything with this email, then only this object will be null. In that case, I want to in that case only I want to register the user. So if this is not the case, then what I want to do is I want to return cafe utils, and said this one I'm going to return a customized message that is email already exist, and I'm going to pass the status code that is http status, and this is a bad request like this. Sorry, this is cafe utils dot get response entity like this one. Okay, so now we are good over here. Next thing, if this one is the case that we cannot find any user with that email ID, then what we have to do? Then we have to actually simply call user DAO dot save, but we cannot pass this request map directly. We need a user object in order to save the data. So in that case, what we have to do is we have to actually create another class which will extract the value from that map and set it in the user and return a user object. So private, and this is going to return a user object, and select this user common cafe and .pojo. So let's double click on this, and here what we have to do is we have to name one method that is get user from map, and this is going to accept a map of type string comma string, and I'm going to name this one request map, and I'm going to create an object of user is equal to new user, and we are going to use this user dot set name, and we're going to extract it from request map dot get name like this. Again, we are going to set this user dot set contact number. So request map dot get contact number. Make sure you use the same key which we are using, which you are actually validating. If you change the key over here, then it will not work. You may stuck in some of the exception. So user dot, next thing we have to set this user dot email. So request map dot get email, user dot set password. So request map dot get password. Next thing we have to set user dot set status. So by default we want to set is false. Next thing we have to set user dot set role. So this is user. And now after creating this object, we have to return the object. Simply we have to return the object. Here you must have observed that inside this user class we haven't defined the getter and setter, but still we are using that getter and setters over here. This is only because of this @data annotation. If I just comment it out and save it, if I move back over here, and you can see this, every setter is showing as red. Click here. Here you can see this create method for the set name. So if I move back over here, just reverse it, uncomment it, and move back over here, now the issue is resolved. Okay. So here in the save we have to get user from map, and say this one we have to pass a request map simply, And after this will simply persist the data into the database. Next thing, after this data insertion of this, I want to actually return user some valid data that your data is persist or sign up is successful. For that, return cafe utils dot get response entity, and here we have to pass the message that is sign up is successful or successfully registered. Registered, and the status code will be status dot okay. It will be okay like this. And here you can see this, now everything is ready, but we missed one small stuff. What is that? Let me just minimize it, and here you can see this, now everything, now there is no error and no issue in our project, but we missed one small stuff, that is exception handling. So we haven't put all the code in the try catch block. So try, and I'm going to put it inside the try, and we have to catch the exception. So exception ex, in the case if anything goes wrong, then we don't want our application to be crashed. Okay, so print start trace, and in the same case we have to return cafe utils dot get response from map cafe constants cafe utils dot cafe constant dot something went wrong. This is the message, and http status will be internal server error. So now our API is ready. Next thing what we have to do is we have to actually test this API. So if I move back over here, and if I move back to the user rest, and here you can see this, our path is user slash sign up. So I'm going to start it, and this is a post mapping. So you can see this, it started at port 8081, and we already have one table in the database, and here you can see this. Now we have table, and if I select star from user, and I'm going to use this, and here you can see this, now that there is no data in this table for now. So if I move back over here, and our port this application is up and running at port 8081. So now we need a postman to hit the API. So first thing, we have this API type is post. So just click on this and select post, and this is local host colon 8080, and our API endpoint is at the class we have added this user and slash sign up. So user slash sign up, and if I send it, okay, it's throwing in 404 because nothing is found, not found. Okay, this is not found. Oh, sorry, my bad. Actually, our application is up and running at port 8081, not 8080. By default, it's up and run on 8080, but in the application.properties, we have set to start the server at 8081. Okay, so if I move back over here and again send it, and here you can see this, now this is throwing an error that is 400 bad request if the map doesn't contain those values. So in this time, if I move back to this one, and here you can see this, okay, so this is we don't have any request body. That's why if I move back over here, then user rest, here you can see this, the required is true by default. That's why it is being returned from here only. It's not allowed to move inside our service, ample, or any other classes. Okay, so let's try with the empty body. So if I click on this one, if I move back over here, just select this body and select this raw and select this JSON, and I'm going to pass this one and just hit the enter. Invalid data. This is message what we are going to set. So if I move back over here inside sign up, and here you can see this is the empty data. If I try to set some value that is ABC, this is the key, and not ABC, let me just set the name, and my name is Saurav. So if I click on the send, And here you can see this invalid data and this name is being printed over here. So this is working fine. Now we are actually moving back over here, and here it's validating that it doesn't contain these all the stuff. It contains only name. Then in that case it will return false. And if I move back over here, is this response is if is invalid, then it's returning invalid data and 400 bad request. So if I move back over here, you can see this invalid data. Next thing what we are going to do is we are going to validate, put these all stuff in this, and let's test our API. So I'm going to put this name, that is Saurav, and this contact number. Let me just copy it from here. Contact number in the column, and it will be 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 0, something like this. And third key will be email. So it is btechdays.care@gmail.com. Next thing is password. So I'm going to keep the password simple. That is 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now we have all of the keys which this one is expecting. So I'm going to send it, and here you can see this sign up is successful. And if I move back over here to the run, here you can see this now inside the sign up, and it's printed all the data whatever we passed in the body. So this logger is being printed. Next thing, if we move back to the database, and if I run the same command, and here you can see this now btechdays.care is here. Now the ID is automatically implemented to 1 and the role is user, and by default the status is false. If I move back over here to the Postman once again, and if I click on the send again, here you can see this email already exists. So now this one is working fine, and here you can see this for the second time when I hit this, this find by ID is fired in the database. Select everything, and if I move back over here for the first time, here you can see this after the printing the logger, it's select for the user from the by the email ID actually, and it's check that if this is null, then it's actually registered. Here you can see this is insert query is also printed over here. Second time when I try to send it, in that case only the select query is printed. Why this is because when it's going to fetch the data from the database, it found that with that email ID the data exists in our database. So this object is not null. It goes to the else condition, and email already exists is returned. Here you can see this. So if I go over here, just right click and clear it, and if I send it once again, and here you can see this only this select query is printed. So that's it for this video guys. We are done with one API, that is sign up, and it's up and running, and we have tested for the different scenarios. Okay, so in the next video what we are going to do is we are going to implement the JWT and login stuff, and we move further with all of these REST APIs, and after that we will move to the UI part with the integrating the UI and the backend as well. So just give it a thumbs up, subscribe and share with your friends, and follow us on Instagram. Thanks for watching.